business like show business, like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything that traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far. That night you opened and there you are. Next day on your dressing room they've hung a star. Let's go on with the show.
There's really no business like show business, right? You've heard that expression, and we opened with that song because that's the song everyone knows. The lyrics still mean so much too, because everyone's trying to, especially in LA, get into show business somehow, and there's no other business like it. I didn't even start. I mean, do we know what I'm talking about? We got to do the credits, right? Oh gosh, look at me. Okay, here we go. Hey now, just disregard that beginning. No, I'm just teasing. Just mixing up the formula. We got to keep it fresh because we got some fresh ideas. And I started with that song because we're finally getting to a songwriter that, gosh, we've almost captured all the best songwriters because we've done Jerome Kern, Richard Rodgers, all these guys. We're probably going to do one of the best, and I know I say that every class, but this is the guy that wrote There's No Business Like Show Business, along with, 1,500 to 2,000 more songs that, great songs and lyrics. Hard to write both. Who else did that? Cole Porter, probably the only other songwriter that also wrote his own lyrics. Mostly, like the most famous songwriter I'm talking about, not in the world. There's people that have done it, but you know what I mean. Probably Cole Porter. So, today we're going to be talking about Irving Berlin.
If you're blue and you know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem sits? Working on the Ritz. Bango gowns and one and envy of my brows from down the levee. Oh, it's rich. Working on the Ritz.
Irving Berlin is Americana. That's a fancy word for saying it. He's American. Doesn't get more American than his songs. And he wasn't born here either. He became a citizen, obviously, but he set the tone for the American songbook, for the tunes that people danced and sang to that they loved of the early 20th century. Let's go over to the Russian Empire, because this is where he's born. He's born 1888, but grows up in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He's a leading role in the early songbook era. We've talked a lot about that. Ragtime and early jazz music. When we talk about jazz musicians, they cover a lot of Irving Berlin songs, just like with Gershwin and other people. So if he's born in 1888, let's bring up our timeline of people that we've looked at. He's Jerome Kern's a little bit before him, but mostly he's right after. And then we get Cole Porter, who's a witty songwriter and he's not going to do American songs per se. He's going to be kind of a little bit more witty and intellectual with innuendos and all that stuff. Gershwin's American, going to try a little bit more classical music with Rhapsody in Blue, but also jazz music for sure. Richard Rodgers, these guys are all Americans, just so you know. Richard Rodgers writes in all styles. Just great melodic songwriter. Irving Berlin is not trained at all. Doesn't know how to read or write music at all. Didn't know. So Gershwin called him the greatest songwriter that ever lived. And Gershwin was going to assist Berlin with some notation. And Berlin said, no, you're way too talented to be my assistant. And Jerome Kern said, Irving Berlin has no place in American music. He is American music. Big thing to say. What is American music? We've talked a lot about American music. And this goes back to Copeland, right? Aaron Copland, Fanfare for the Common Man. Copeland got that American sound, that open prairie-like sound. And then we talked about that with, Field of Dreams and how that sounds like a Copeland soundtrack had he written that. Charles Ives, all those marching bands in the late 19th century that he heard, he said, what if all these marching bands were playing at the same time, and what if they were playing patriotic songs? So it's early patriotic music, but then the great thing about our country is that jazz, right? Ragtime, and that all goes back to Scott Joplin. But Scott Joplin, way before Irving Berlin. How did he understand? How did he start getting this ragtime? I'm just mystified still. I can't believe how early Scott Joplin's music and how important it was. Obviously, there's others, but we're talking about people that we've covered in this class, in this curriculum. I mean, I do a lot of thinking about how to move the narrative of this curriculum and all that stuff. So it's really cool because Europeans they love jazz for the most part. And they're really interested in the music that's going on here. And all that music really starts 19th century, early 20th century, mostly in New York, because we talked about the Tin Pan Alley. Because these guys, what's great, these guys, many of them untrained, but knew how to write great songs. A lot of it had to do with timing, but knew the lyrics, knew how to adapt the lyrics, and knew melody so well that I think it was inevitable that trained composers like Copland and Charles Ives were like, wow, they've got really great music. We're writing, classical music that we've studied at Harvard and all that's all well and good. But what about people that just write really great music and great melodies? They were like, boy, these Americans are onto something. So when Berlin as a kid comes to the East Side, I mean, he's poor. I mean, these are all these immigrants are coming. We talked about the Ziegfeld Follies. New York was a melting pot for immigrants, and you have all these, diversity. Diversity is the big word today. But, that's like a movement now. But back then it was just diverse because everybody was coming, because there was persecution everywhere in all these countries. And Berlin's family was persecuted in Russia, so they were like, we have to get out of here. So they came to New York where there's land of opportunity and all that stuff. So he starts getting little jobs as a singing waiter and starts writing his own songs. And then in 1911 is when he writes the big Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Oh my honey, better hurry and let's meander. Ain't you going to the leader man, ragged meter man?
It was a huge hit. I mean, really big. Kind of like, do you remember when Gershwin wrote, he was the Tin Pan Alley songwriter formula. When he wrote Swanee in 1919, that made him it was back in the day where if you wrote one song, you could be the most famous songwriter the next day. So Swanee happened with Gershwin, but this is, 9 years earlier. Alexander's Ragtime Band made him the king of Tin Pan Alley in 1911. If he didn't know how to read or write music, how did he write these songs? I don't know. Can you tell me? Why do I have to know? Well, he only used the keyboard. He only wrote on black keys. We know that there's 88 keys and there's 12 notes. And we know that there's ebony and ivory, right? So he only wrote on the ebony keys because he thought it was the easiest to do. So, and then he had a trick piano, he called it, a transposing piano. So he could, he'll show you.
This is the first piano I ever owned. It's what we call a transposing keyboard. Want to see how it works?
Yes.
Well, you see, I only play an F sharp in the black key, you see?
Oh, the black keys.
That's right. Now, with this...
Oh, that's one. Could I see that again,
Yes,
please?
Julie.
The keyboard is movable. It's very simple. Here it is.
This was $100, which is probably a lot of money back then, actually. But this transposed all of the songs so he could play in different keys. Because I was awake last night. I really, really was. I couldn't go back to sleep because I was trying to think, how did he write all of these songs with just the black keys? Because there's not that many chords you can play with black keys. And I started looking up his sheet music this morning and was like, well, how did he get to that chord to that chord? So it must have been, he also dictated a lot to secretaries and to people that notated his music so he could whistle. So he had melody in his hand, in his mind all the time. So by the 20s, he's the most important songwriter, even though he had no formal training. I just think it's so great that like all these other composers, European composers, you can train for forever in the university and still not know how to write a great song. Isn't that funny? Probably his greatest success was Annie Get Your Gun, 1946, starring Ethel Merman. And Ethel Merman was the lady that we saw that opened this whole class. The very big presence. Everything's enunciated perfectly. Annoys a lot of people, but She's a classic, of course, regardless. I mean, nobody could quite do it like her. So that's Ethel Merman. So and that's where There's No Business Like Show Business comes from. They did a movie called that later, and that's where that clip is from that movie. But Annie Get Your Gun, oh my gosh, great music. Watched the movie last night. It holds up a little bit, but I fast forwarded to every song just because every song is wonderful. And to write the lyrics too, that's not easy. So once you conquer Broadway, you do what? You go to Hollywood, right? And then he conquered Hollywood with writing scores for Top Hat, 1935, Holiday Inn, which there's a little song out of Holiday Inn called White Christmas that he writes.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children to hear sleigh bells in the snow.
That's from the movie White Christmas, but it originally was earlier in a movie called Holiday Inn. One of the best songs ever, right? Probably one of the best Christmas songs for sure. Best recorded song during World War II. With the great Bing Crosby's voice. So we're hearing so many great songs. He also did, what some people consider the second national anthem, God Bless America. It was written during World War I, but it was really, for World War II, it was really performed in 1938 that made the huge impression with all of America, that Kate Smith sang.
God bless America.
We all know and love these songs. These became part of our American songbook, songs that we still know. So when I know you guys know all these songs. So this all came from Irving Berlin. How did he write a song? Did he wait for inspiration? No, I'm here to tell you he didn't. He said he didn't believe in inspiration, which I always like, because it's good to be inspired for sure, but you have to really, just start working every day. And so after dinner he would write every single night until 4 or 5 in the morning. And he said he wasn't the most gifted musician, but he had to work hard at his craft, even though he was, naturally gifted. So Irving Berlin really immortalized these songs, and it was good timing. We need to think about art in terms of good timing. And we also, think about, would he have been as successful if he was out today? I don't know. It was really good timing for him to come out with these American patriotic songs in the early 20th century, because America needed a lot of this stuff. We were getting more Americans in, more immigrants in. So it was good timing. Obviously, it was good songs, but I always like to throw out that existential question: is what would he have been as popular today? And I don't know. What he said was that Irving Berlin said it's the lyrics that make a song a hit. But then he said the tune, of course, makes it last. I thought that was really interesting. So if you can hook people in with the lyrics, that'll make it a hit. But if you hook people in with the lyrics and the melody, that'll make it really last. So the melody is what lasts. And what do you think? I agree with that. I think that, obviously the combination is the best. But really, the lyrics, we listen to people speaking things probably, first, and then we sing and whistle the tune to ourselves throughout the day, and then we're like, oh, wow, this is actually a really good song too. And that's why all of his songs were covered by musicians that, many instrumentalists that didn't sing the lyrics, but still the tunes are so great. So a little fun with Irving Berlin. Thought he deserved a class. Died in 1989 at the age of 101. Wow, what a life. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.